Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. My name is Debra. I am your host. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Thank you for listening. If you're a regular listener, you will know that this is the biggest gap I have ever had in between episodes. I pride myself on releasing at least one episode a week, sometimes more. And I realized that I haven't actually released an episode since the 25th of February, which is a very long time. Today is the 11th of March, I think. I've been struggling with grief and the loss of a very much loved family pet. And I had to prioritize my own self-care and look after the most important things around me, such as my family, and put my energy when it came to work into my clients. And I had to let slip things like my podcast and, very sadly, also my women's health event, which should be happening this week. But after everything I was going through, I just realized I did not have the brain space or the emotional capacity to give my all. And I like to give 100% in everything I do. And I just didn't feel I could give 100%. So I will be arranging another one in the future. But for now, I'm here. And it's a big step in me getting back to my usual self. I know it's going to take time. And if anybody here is struggling with any grief or loss, no matter if it's a person, a pet, or even your former self, and you're hankering after the person you used to be, and you're not feeling like that person now, please know that I'm here to help and you can reach out anytime. I've also been doing quite a few reflective posts on self-compassion and how to look after yourself. So please do check out my social media. And in the show notes, you will see that all my contact details and social media is there. Please do feel free to reach out. I always like to help women to the very best of my ability, whether client, whether you're just inquiring and you're listening and you just want to ask a question. I always do want to help as best as I can. Now, before I go into this podcast episode, which is titled 12 Ways to Lose Weight and Feel Better Without Dieting or Counting Calories, I want to ask you kindly, because it goes a really, really long way, in leaving me a 5-star review, sharing my podcast with your friends, because if you have friends, if you're benefiting from this podcast and you've been listening and you're finding the episodes helpful, and there are many, many episodes, if you're finding them helpful, you probably have a friend who would also find them helpful, if not a friendship group. So please do share my podcast with your friends in your WhatsApp chats, in your Facebook pages, your Instagram stories. Please do remember to tag me if you do share on socials. But please do share me with your friends. And if you've not already liked and subscribed, please do. It brings the attention of my podcast to more women. And that's what I want my podcast to be able to do. It's a free resource to help women, particularly women over 40, maybe perimenopausal or menopausal, and looking to feel their best selves, lose weight, and just feel stronger, healthier, and happier. Hence the name of my podcast. So, 12 ways to lose weight and feel better without dieting or counting calories. I thought I would do this podcast episode because I know with my own clients, and obviously I coach one-to-one, and so I build a program and a method of coaching to suit each of my clients, and no two clients are doing the same thing. Everyone has their own lifestyle and their own preferences, choices, impacts on their time, responsibilities, commitments, pressures. And these things can affect how we show up for ourselves and what we're able to do. Now, I wanted to record this episode because I know that time is a big factor for many people, and I don't want time to be a reason why you can't take steps to feel a healthier version of yourself. And if weight loss is your goal, these are going to help you focus on weight loss, but without focusing on weight loss. And that's what I want. I know some people don't like tracking calories, counting calories, weighing foods and doing things like that. So this is really helpful for anyone who wants to lose weight. It's also really helpful for anyone who's come away from tracking but still wants to maintain those healthy tracking habits that you establish but without tracking. It's also really helpful way just to be able to stay mindful of your goal but without scrutinizing everything that you do. And it's just really simple techniques that you can apply to your life. Now, many of them are based around nutrition choices, and then I'll move on to what comes after that. But to start with, these are in no particular order, by the way. I've tried to order them, but they may be a bit out of order. But the first thing I'm going to think about is how, when it comes to food choices, small things you can do to reduce the calories that you're consuming, even though you're not counting or tracking them. And to lose weight, ultimately, that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to save calories and reduce the amount of calories that you're consuming, whether that be from food, whether that be from drink, combination of both, etc. And if you think about calories as money, the same as money, if you had to save money, whether, you were trying to afford to buy something or you had an unexpected expense and your day-to-day spending you had to pull back on it, you would start to think about, right, where can I save money? How can I reduce my spending without impacting the quality of my life too much? What can I save on? And the same way you would have those thoughts when it comes to money, you want to have those thoughts when it comes to food. How can I save calories? How can I still eat the foods I enjoy, but reduce my calories, have a good quality of life, be able to socialize? What can I do in order to save calories? And this is what I'm going to explain in the nutrition-y bit of this 12 steps. Now, the easiest thing that you can do to reduce the calories is when you're serving your meal up, is to halve the amount of starchy carbs you have. So starchy carbs could be pasta, potato, rice, bread, that type of starchy carb. And it's not that carbs are bad, and it's not that carbs are responsible for making you gain weight. Carbs are just a really easy food type to be able to reduce. So if you normally have a large jacket potato, reduce the size of it to a smaller size jacket potato. If you normally fill your plate with spaghetti for your bolognese, halve your plate of spaghetti with bolognese. If you have a packet of ready cooked rice, have half a packet of ready cooked rice. So you're just reducing the quantity. If you have 2 slices of toast, have 1 slice of toast. And you're still eating carbs because they're important. They're your body's primary fuel source that fuel your brain and your body and your muscles, but you're not eliminating them. Carbs make you happy, and they're a great food source, and they help you to keep full. So we want to keep carbs in, but just halving the quantity you have will halve the calories that you're consuming from those carbohydrates. And it's a really easy thing to reduce. Now, where the space on your plate will be from where you've halved your carbs, you are going to fill it, because I don't want anyone to have an empty plate. We want to get as much food for the calories that we consume. And a really, really easy way to fill your plate is to fill half your plate with vegetables. So any space you've created from halving your carbs, you are now going to fill with veg. And if you think about your plate and what it's going to look like, you want a shit ton of veg on your plate that takes up half the space on your plate, including the space that you've made from reducing your carbs. Now, your veg can be whatever you want your veg to be. Just be mindful. Root veg are going to come in at a higher calorie cost. Root veg being, potatoes, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, carrots, parsnips, those types of veg. But all the other types of veg, like off the top of my head, courgette, aubergine, green beans, mange tout, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli, mushrooms, peppers, like these are all really nutritious vegetables. And no one gained weight from eating too many veg. not that I've come across in all the years that I've been coaching and speaking and working with many women in a health and fitness environment. No one really gained weight from eating too many veg. So you don't need to worry about it. What I would recommend with vegetables is think about different colors of veg and having a nice diverse range of veg so that your plate looks colorful, it looks attractive, and it's not just a boiled bit of manky cabbage at the side of your plate and, a half a tin of sweet corn. And there's nothing wrong with sweet corn, there's nothing wrong with cabbage, but you want to make these veg look really appealing and appetizing, colorful and varied through the week. So what you've done, just to recap on those 2 points, you've halved your carbs and you've filled half your plate with veg. The veg that you fill half your plate with will come in at a lot lower calorie than the carb that you've probably halved, and they're going to be full of fiber and they're going to keep you fuller for longer, as well as give you many vitamins and minerals and very nutritious. The other thing that you're going to do with your food choices is you're going to prioritize a lean protein source at every meal. A lean protein source means you're using protein that is less fatty. It's the more leaner cut of the meat. So for example, chicken breast compared to chicken leg or chicken thigh. You're going to have lean cuts of meat. 5% mince beef, for example. You can also use the lower 3% turkey mince, chicken mince, whatever your preferences are. Obviously, fish, you've got your plant-based alternatives such as soy, corn, tofu, which are all really good sources of protein and are complete protein sources, meaning they contain the complete amino acid profile to support the benefits of consuming protein, supporting your muscle maintenance, which is, as a woman, especially over 30, you're losing muscle tissue. We want to preserve muscle tissue as much as possible for your long-term health, for your aesthetics, your body composition, many, many benefits to having muscle tissue, which I'm not going to go into today. I've recorded lots of podcasts all about the benefits of building muscle and strength training. But prioritizing lean protein. You also want to think about reducing the amount of fats that you're including in your meal. So it might be the oil that you cook with. If you're currently getting the bottle and liberally shaking it onto, whether it be a dressing on a salad or you're cooking with the oil and you're liberally shaking the bottle, Jamie Oliver style, into a pan, unknowingly and not realizing it, you could be consuming a large quantity of calories from oils. And healthy fats are essential for your hormonal health, but we want to control the amount of fats that you're consuming. We're not going to be talking numbers because the whole idea of this podcast is to make it easy. But if you are using oil, I would use measuring spoons and stick to a tablespoon. If it's a family meal and you're cooking multiple portions, you want about a tablespoon. You can bump up with 1 calorie spray oil if you feel like you need a bit more, something to cook the meal in. And you can also just put in a bit of hot water to help with the cooking process if you've reduced on the fats. If you're adding things like nuts and seeds, again, which are essential and healthy fats for hormonal health and, taste delicious, etc., manage the amount that you're having. You want no more than a thumb-sized amount as a really easy guide. It's very easy for if you think of fats as a whole, they come in at double the amount of calories per gram compared to carbohydrates and protein. So if you're like estimating nuts and liberally sprinkling nuts and seeds and chia seeds and things like that over your food, unknowingly you're consuming high amounts of calories. So you can still have those foods, but think about a thumb-sized amount, which means you're having them, but you're reducing the quantity. When it comes to creating meals based on what I've just spoken about, it's called the plate method, or creating a balanced meal. What does your balanced meal look like? No matter what meal it is of the day, you want to think about half of your plate filled with veg. And if it's not veg, maybe you're having breakfast and it lends itself to fruit, you're going to have half your plate or bowl filled with veg or fruit. Remember, salad comes under the veg bracket, but you're going to fill half your plate or bowl with veg or fruit. A quarter of your plate is going to be protein, a leaner protein, so that you can still benefit from the protein source, but the leaner cut is going to come in with less calories. And then the other quarter of your plate is going to be filled with your starchy carb. But the biggest amount that takes up the most space on your plate is going to be the veg or fruit. And then the other quarters, 1/4 protein, one quarter starchy carb. And that gives you a bit of a visual over what that looks like when you're creating a meal. So even if it's something like a breakfast porridge, you can still have your porridge oats. If you normally have a large bowl of porridge oats, halve it. I recommend adding protein into your porridge oats, whether it be something like whey protein or you're adding a 0% Greek yogurt. You can even make overnight oats with your Greek yogurt, and then loads of fruit. And remember, frozen fruit and veg for that matter is very nutritious, and you can still have that. So when it comes to berries, it's very handy to have them in the freezer. You can blast them in the microwave, top your breakfast cereal with it, but make sure that you are having that protein source. The other thing when it comes to nutrition is making what I call smart swaps. What is a smart swap, you ask? A smart swap is where you can swap out your more higher calorie food choices for reduced fat versions. Now, it doesn't mean that everything you consume has to be no fat, 0% or reduced fat, but there are some things you use in daily life that really do make sense in reducing. So where you're having mayonnaise, salad cream, ketchup, things like that, you can simply swap those for reduced fat versions. The chances of you noticing when it comes to adding it to your food is very slim. And it's a really easy way to reduce your calories, but still have those sources. Same with salad dressings. Salad dressings can take what's a really low calorie meal, all of a sudden make it super high by soaking your salad leaves in a high calorie dressing. So, swapping out to reduced fat alternatives or using balsamic and just a very small measured amount of olive oil is a way of making a smart swap. You can also do smart swaps when it comes to things like butter, using a reduced fat, cheeses, coleslaws, foods like that are easy to swap out. Now, there might be some foods that you think, I am never swapping that out because it never tastes as good. That's obviously your choice and your preference, but looking at where else you can pull back is going to be very smart in helping you reduce your calories. And I do have clients that say to me, I'm not having 0%, and that's fine. It's about making it work for each person and for you, the listener. So it's about just learning how a bit of give and a bit of take and a bit of logic and sense when it comes to your food choices. And, you can't have it all and expect to lose weight. We've got to pull back somewhere, and where you pull it back is totally up to you and your choice. But smart swaps. Same with milks. If you're having full fat milk, you could have skimmed or semi-skimmed. If you're having sweetened oat milk, you could get reduced sugar oat milk or almond milk, no sugar almond milk, and you'll reduce the calories. And especially, in fact, I'm going to come on to liquid calories in a minute, but that was just an example of some smart swaps. The other really simple tip that doesn't involve counting calories to reduce the amount that you're eating is to eat mindfully. Now, what the hell does eating mindfully mean? How do you eat mindfully? The way that you eat mindfully, so those meals where you're on your own, might be lunchtime typically, or even breakfast. You eat once you've dropped the kids to school, or maybe your kids are grown up, everyone does their own breakfast, and you tend to eat those meals on your own. When you eat on your own, you feel like you need to be distracted, because we all these days find it very hard to sit and do nothing and focus on one thing, where you'll have to be multitasking 100 things all at the same time because we're so busy. But if you eat your meal distracted, i.e., you're scrolling, you're catching up on social media, on text messages, you're looking at the news, or whatever it is that you might be distracting yourself with, you're working at your desk, or things like that, you are not focusing on your meal. You're not focusing on your food. And when you're distracted, you tend to eat quicker, right? This is fact. You tend to eat quicker. You notice less what it is that you're eating, how good it tastes, how much you're even enjoying it, the flavors, the textures. You're not present because you're distracted, and then you're eating quicker. When you eat too quickly, you're not giving your hormones, the hunger hormone that signals to your brain she's reaching fullness, it doesn't signal in time because you've eaten so quickly that it hasn't even been released yet. So you get to the end of the meal, you don't remember eating it. You think you're still hungry, so you go grab another slice of toast or whatever it is that you're eating. You grab a bit more of a portion, and then you eat it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I feel full. And that's because finally the hunger hormone was able to catch up, and leptin was able to catch up and release that hormone to signal you're reaching fullness. But you ate so quick that that fullness signal wasn't released in time because you didn't give it time, and then you ate past a comfortable level of fullness and ended up eating more than if you'd have slowed down and not been distracted and actually better enjoyed your food and really savored the taste and the enjoyment of it. And because you've eaten slowly, you wouldn't have grabbed seconds or the extra slice of toast or whatever it is that you're going. And I sort of talk, like, for me, I don't think this is just me, but have you ever gone in your car, driven somewhere and thought, shit, I don't actually remember the journey to get here. I know I've arrived, but I don't actually recollect getting here. That's what it's like to eat distracted. You finish your meal, you don't even remember eating it because it was all so rushed and distracted. So slow down and eat mindfully. That's what mindful eating is, and enjoy it a lot more, and you'll eat less, and that will support your weight loss goal. They're sort of the typical nutrition things. So just to really recap on very quickly recap on the nutrition things: halve your carbs, halve your starchy carbs, increase your veg and fruit, prioritize lean protein, thumb-sized portion of fats, use the plate method on creating a balanced meal: half a plate of veg or fruit, quarter of your plate from protein, quarter of your plate of carbohydrates. Make some smart swaps. Eat mindfully and slowly and not distracted. And then I've missed this one off, so I'm going to just put it in here, is reduce liquid calories. Now, what are liquid calories? When you have that glass of fresh orange juice, and there's nothing wrong with a glass of fresh orange juice, there's nothing wrong with any food types, but it's about when you're looking to make savings, you have to weigh up, is it worth this cost? Same like you would money. And fresh juices come in at quite a high calorie cost, good 100 to 200 calories, depending the size of your glass, for drinking. Milky coffees, lattes, cappuccinos. It takes a coffee, which is like a few calories, if you just take it in its format with coffee and water. It takes a drink from a few calories up to a drink all of a sudden, especially if it's a takeaway and it's a bigger size, to 200 plus calories. If you're doing that every day or multiple times in a week, you're consuming a large amount of your calories from liquid. And again, if you're looking at the cost, is that worth it? I'm trying to save money. I'm trying to save calories. Is it worth it? What swap could I make? Could you have an Americano with frothy, hot, skimmed milk instead of a latte? So you still get the milky taste, but you've reduced the quantity. You swapped it for a skimmed milk, and there's less milk in it, that type of drink. Could you have the occasional just coffee with a little bit of skimmed milk? Could you have, just think about reducing the quantities. And drinks like lattes and cappuccinos, they're a treat, not a daily staple. And you will appreciate it so much more when you reduce it and you really savor it. When it becomes just the normal, the novelty factor wears off and you're consuming high amount of calories and you're not actually appreciating it. So think about the frequency that you're having these high calorie drinks. Liquid calories also relates to alcohol. Now, menopausal women tend to generally typically struggle with weight, mood, energy, sleep, just the way they feel in themselves, but yet they're still drinking. And like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a glass of wine when you're out with your girlfriends or your partner or whatever, but drinking, I'm not even going to say large quantities, because it actually doesn't need to be a large quantity of alcohol to impact you and your sleep and how you feel. So I would limit the amount of alcohol that you're consuming, and definitely no more than 2 days in your week to consume alcohol. Alcohol impacts your sleep, and your sleep impacts your mood, and it also impacts your hunger. And these are not conducive when you're trying to lose weight. So I would recommend that you manage and reduce your liquid calories. Really think about it. A really easy way to manage your fullness and how to notice fullness. When you want to be in a deficit and you may want, 10 things, but you can't afford 10 things. And again, if you translate it to money, if you had £100 and you had to make that last a certain period of time, and there's 10 things you want, but you can't afford 10 things, you have to think about, what one thing can I knock off so that I can afford my 10 things? When it comes to fullness, it's a little bit the same. And the thing with fullness is, to lose weight, you don't want to be eating to 100% fullness. 100% fullness means you're 100% satisfied. And that's like you being in maintenance. That's you maintaining where your weight currently is. To be in a deficit, you want to be left with a little bit of hunger. Now, that doesn't mean that you're walking around starving hungry all day. It just means that you're mildly full. You could eat more, but you're going to choose not to because it represents you being in a deficit. And the way to do that is to measure it in percent. And instead of eating to 80% full, you're going to 100% full, you're going to eat to 80% full. And that's you eating, feeling mildly, comfortably full, but stopping at 80%. So you're just left wanting that little bit. And that will be you in a deficit. You didn't need to count calories. No one need know that you're doing it. It doesn't matter where you're eating, what you're eating, or who you're with. You can apply that eating to 80% and no one need know. And it might mean that you end up leaving food on your plate because you recognize, I'm at 80%. If I carry on eating what's on my plate, it's going to take me past that. And therefore, I'm not going to lose body fat. So I'm going to give myself permission to leave food on my plate. I know that might be a difficult thing for many people. We often brought up to, finish everything on our plate, be a good girl. There are starving children in the country, in the world, and you're leaving food. But at the end of the day, you're an adult, you have goals, and it doesn't have to go to waste. It can be boxed up. Somebody else might want it. It's your life, your decisions, your choices. So honor them. Okay, another thing you can do to just looking back to the name of my podcast, lose weight, feel better without dieting or counting calories, is to move more. Surprise, surprise. And that means, when I say move more, I mean in daily life. If you currently are only doing 2,000 steps a day, you are below what I would call as a really low minimum of 5,000 steps a day. You want to be moving more. If you think there are 12 hours in a day, and yes, you might be exercising, that takes up maybe 1 hour, if that, of your day. What are you doing for the 11 other hours? This is when you're expending the majority of your calories. So get moving. Don't make life and things easy for yourself. You drive to the supermarket, park far away, walk to the entrance. Same if you do go to a gym, park further away. If you're going to work, park the furthest part away in the car park. If you're getting on a bus or a train, can you get off a stop earlier? Make yourself walk that last bit. There are things you can do to increase your activity. I have a sedentary job. I have to be very mindful of getting up, going out, going for walks, incorporating them and planning them into my day. It's very easy to just stay at your desk, and it's very hard to break away, but your productivity and your mood will increase, as will your energy when you're moving, as will your expenditure. So incorporate more daily movement and do an intentional walk, preferably in daylight, every day, so you benefit from vitamin D and daylight. Reducing stress and promoting better sleep is going to benefit you when it comes to weight loss. I touched on this just a minute ago. If your sleep is really poor, and I get that sleep can be impacted as one of the menopause symptoms, night sweats, many different reasons that can impact sleep, try and create a bedtime routine so that every night you're going to bed at the same time. It may on a weekend be a little bit later, but you don't want it, you want it within an hour of your normal bedtime. And that way you're helping your circadian rhythm get into a nice routine. It knows when it's bedtimes, it knows when it's wake time. You will get better quality sleep. Your body will be in a better rhythm. You'll better balance your hormones. And if your sleep is impacted, it can lead to low mood, low energy, lack of desire to do any of the things that I've just talked about, and will end up with you having possibly more cravings, more hunger, and it also reduces your feelings of fullness, which is not helpful to the way that you feel, your body, your weight, and all the things that you're trying really hard to improve on. Your poor sleep and your lack of routine, your alcohol consumption, these will all impact you. When it comes to reducing stress, there are things that you can do to help manage stress, whether it be a slower form of exercise like meditation, yoga, even just simple deep breathing as you get into bed and you bring yourself into a calm state. Might be reading a book, might be doing a jigsaw puzzle, might be going for the walk. So there are things that you can do to reduce stress. Studies have proven that walking, preferably somewhere in nature, reduces stress and increases well-being. So these are things that you can do to reduce your stress and increase your well-being. Ideally, you want to be getting a good 7 hours minimum of sleep per night. And then the last thing that on my list, this will be the 12th thing, and it's probably the one thing that you're not doing at all. Some of you might be. If my clients are listening, you are. And that is strength train. And I know that you think, how is that going to help me lose weight? Because I just want to burn calories and do cardio and run and jump around in a class. Strength training builds muscle tissue, and muscle tissue is a metabolically active tissue. What does that mean? It means that your muscle burns more calories when you sit in an armchair watching TV than if you didn't have muscle. So there's every reason to build and stimulate your muscle tissue because it boosts your metabolism. Your boosted metabolism will burn more calories. Building muscle supports menopause symptoms, reduces menopause symptoms, supports you as you age, makes you feel strong, makes you feel mentally resilient as well as physically resilient and stronger. And when it comes to your body, those of you who are looking to toning up means building muscle tissue. That is what gives you the toned look. You want to build muscle tissue whilst you're reducing body fat. You can absolutely do both. And if you've never strength trained before, you are in this amazing window of opportunity where your gains are going to be far more pertinent than someone like me who's been training for a number of years. I don't have that window anymore. And we only have this window of opportunity to get really good results and notice the benefits of our strength training in around about a year window. And then after that, it gets much, much harder. Building muscle takes time. It takes consistency. It can happen. It has happened. I didn't start strength training till I was around 45, 46. And I'm now 55. And it's taken a while to build my physique and muscle over the last, 8 years or so. So it does take time. But what you have to recognize is how great it makes you feel when you're doing it. Of course, you can still do cardiovascular exercise. And if you enjoy running, carry on doing it. And I would just keep it steady state. You don't need to be going high intensity. You don't need to be doing HIIT training. You just want to do it in a conversational way, that if you're with someone, you could hold a conversation, and that you are not doing it instead of strength training. You incorporate it as part of your exercise routine, but you prioritize strength training. So hopefully all these things that I have spoken about, whether it be with nutrition, sleep, stress, movement, strength training, types of exercise, they are going to help you move closer towards the weight loss and health goal that you have, without counting calories, without obsessing over weighing foods and things like that. These are really simple tips. Now, if you want to benefit from coaching and get more support in the implementation of these things, then you need to contact me for coaching. And the link to coaching is in the show notes. You can just message me, even if you don't want to fill out the form. It's super quick. There's only about 3 questions on the form, but message me, because it's often the implementation that we need help with. So do get in touch. And if you're not able to go for coaching, these points in this podcast and all my podcasts are really, really helpful. So go back and scroll back, see which ones, titles of the podcast episodes resonate with you. Go give them a listen, and I'll catch up with you soon.